Hi, welcome to another episode of Alter Heron. And tonight my friend Hans Jolin will be introducing our guest.
Yes, today we're going to have a guest that we very often come back to and like to watch when he fences, and we like to talk to him a lot about fencing, rapier fencing. It's a fencer that we admire very much. Welcome, Ton Pue. How are you? Okay, so today we're going to talk about Destreza. So we're going to just jump straight into it, and I'm going to ask you, what is Destreza and what does the term Destreza mean?
Yes, Destreza means obviously dexterity and means skill, but not only this, because it's for example the word fencing in Spain, it's esgrima, you know, the word esgrima, and in the 16th century, for the people who practice this kind of fencing in this school, the word esgrima sounds very bad because it's not the high noble people using. It's more for the low classes. Then they use the term destreza, dexterity, destreza de las armas, dexterity of the weapons. Then destreza starts with the book. The system starts with the book of Jerónimo Sánchez de Carranza, and it's not only a way of use the weapons, it's a philosophical system too. Or usually the titles of the treatise is Destreza Filosófica, all kinds of this. Then it's dexterity, but a little thing more than this.
Okay, can you expand a little bit on that core philosophy?
Yes. In the first book of Destreza, the book of Jerónimo Sánchez de Carranza, he's the first writer about this, talking about the education of the people, obviously, education of the noblemen. Then his book is not only a fencing book; it's a book about the philosophy, about religion, and about the correct way to stay. Then, for example, for Destreza, kill a man is a very bad thing. Then they talking about we must protect our life, and if it is necessary, we can kill another guy, but it's not the good way. If I can don't do this, then the book is more. The concepts are deeply that only fencing.
Okay, when was this book published?
The book Carranza writes the book in the middle of the 16th century, in the 69, but it is published in the 82.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this philosophy, this very Christian philosophy, does this flow through all of Destreza, or does this change as Destreza itself develops?
It's a strange thing because we have no concept the other fencing before Destreza in Spain, but all the books of Destreza has wrote for high level people. It's not, for example, the only book we conserve of the Destreza Vulgar. Later we can talking a little bit about Destreza Vulgar. It's a book of a Portuguese book, but in this time it's the same kingdom. It's Domingo Luis Godinho, and Godinho is not a high level nobleman. Godinho is a master of fencing. Then a very bad guy. Yes. And this is the difference. All the books of Destreza is for the high level people.
For the later books that come after Carranza,
yeah,
do they have the same philosophy about Christianity?
Yes, I understand. Yes, the most of the time, but no books like the Carranza book. The Carranza book is the most high level cultural book. It's a Platonic dialogue, 3 books with a Platonic dialogue. Carranza and his friends talking about philosophy, religion, and the most of them, of course, fencing. And they talking. The second author is Luis Pacheco Narváez. Is go more for the point, talking more about fencing, and obviously all the time they write about this concept, but not deeply like Carranza.
Okay, so what weapons are we looking at when we're talking about these things? What weapons are they discussing? Is it very much like, say, Marozzo, where you've got lots of different types, or do the Destreza masters really look at, say, just the sword?
The Destreza is Destreza de las armas, dexterity of the weapons, and obviously it's all the weapons for these guys. They're talking about all the weapons, but what weapons? Because Shamshir, obviously no. But with the development of later, we have Destreza with the saber in the 19th century. But in the first moment, in the middle of the 16th century, the end of the 16th century and the 17th century, they are talking about the sword, about the most of the time about the sword. Because, for example, Pacheco de Narváez talking very, very, very deeply about the single sword. And I'm talking about the single sword, not talking about the rapier. Because in Spain, probably is the first country appears the word ropera, you know. And probably, obviously, we never can be sure about this. But in the first time, it seems in the 15th century appears the word ropera, and go to the French with rapier and to the English with rapier. But in the French language and in English, rapier is a stock, more or less. It's for stock. But in Spain, we using this word not very many times, using all the time the word espada. It's la destreza de la espada, not la destreza de la ropera, no la destreza of the rapier. Because the usual weapon is this kind of weapon, maybe with a thin blade, maybe with a broad blade. And Pacheco Narváez is very interesting in demonstrate that is la espada, the sword, is the queen of the weapons. Then you only need a sword for win against an Albert. Yes, Pacheco says this, because me, absolutely not. And another kind of weapons. Then the most of the times, the most deeply is about the sword. But we have the typical 16th and 17th century weapons too: daga, cloak, buckler, rotella, and obviously another different things with Albert, spear, pike, and includes montante.
Okay. Okay. So Destreza as a system starts around in the mid 16th century, right?
Yeah.
So do we know what were the influences for that?
I think the most influence, it's obviously Italian, but maybe the train of the Destreza or the philosophic concept. Obviously, is the Renaissance. The Renaissance, because the people want to describe the world in books. And in Italy, I think the first who changed the ancient ways to describe the guards and the things is Camilo Agrippa. Camilo Agrippa using a lot of geometrical lines to describe it. Probably, I don't sure about this, but probably is the guy who stay behind the principles.
Okay.
And doesn't Carranza actually reference Marozzo as well?
And maybe, because I don't, Pacheco de Narváez read all of them, because they talking in his book, and not only talking bad about the other guys. Carranza, yes, probably reads Marozzo, because the Bolognese system have very things in common with Destreza.
Yeah.
The use of the circle are the different. It's not, for example, the new master of the end of the 16th century, the new masters in Italy, like Capoferro, Fabri, this kind of master with very big and long swords, and in first time a more linear way, but more linear because the stance is low and the weapons is very long. It's not the same like the Bolognese system, and I think I have there are a connection into Destreza and Bolognese system from my mind.
So, Tom, I'm wondering, can you give us a history of Destreza from Carranza onwards, how it develops, and perhaps also who Destreza is being developed for, and who's controlling Destreza?
The second master, the second important master in Destreza, it's Luis Pacheco Narvaez. And Pacheco Narvaez, because he is in the Canary Islands like a military, and he wants to be a fencing master, the fencing of the crown, fencing of the king. With the pass of the time, because we must waiting for a lot of years, he wins this title, and they published books, of course, but one of these books was a new method for master exam, and this is a book published with the help of the government, because it's very interesting for the people, for the public. The point of Pacheco is control the educational way in Destreza in all the crown, Castilla and Aragon and Galicia and all parts of the Iberic Peninsula, because in this time Portugal stayed into the Spanish, but into the Spanish crown. No, of course, it's another crown, another kingdom of Philip the Third in first time and Philip the Fourth in the second time. But we have a lot of masters, a lot of masters. We can talking about. We can talking a little bit about the other masters if you want.
Yeah. So to just understand, you've got Carranza comes in after. Sorry, you've got Carranza first. Then you have Pacheco coming in, and he wants to be the master for the king, and he starts to control the education.
Yeah.
So there's central authority is controlling how the nobility, the educated people, are learning to fence. So it's actually state-sponsored fencing then.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. At the same time, we have Destreza, but the name, actually, the real name is not Destreza, it's Verdadera Destreza. The true dexterity. Obviously, all of us talking about Destreza because it's shorter and easier. Mm-hmm. But the name is Verdadera Destreza because Destreza is the using of the weapons. Then la Verdadera Destreza, the true dexterity, is the way of Carranza, of Pacheco Narvaez, and this school. But in Spain, it's not only this school. In Spain was another kind of fencing. Probably is the same fencing like in Italy, like in south of France, and obviously in the Mediterranean Sea. Then these guys, Carranza said in his book, said, this is my book, of course, is the Verdadera Destreza, true dexterity, and the other dexterity is not common dexterity. And in Spain, have a lot of different schools, but the Verdadera Destreza stay with the power, then grow up, and in the end, eat all of things.
So you've got noble Destreza, which is really sort of controlled from the center, and then you have what we call vulgar Destreza, which is anyone who's not official and who doesn't agree with Pacheco is basically they're not doing it properly.
Yeah. We talking about the Domingo Luis Godinho before, the Portuguese master of Lisbon, who published it in the end of the 16th century, in the 99. Not published, sorry, because it's a manuscript. They write in the end of the 16th century. This is the only book of this period, not Destreza, not verdadera Destreza, Destreza Vulgar, but we know a lot of tricks, tretas, of the Destreza, the other kind of fencing, because the people he practiced Destreza writes techniques against these tricks, then describe the trick too. We have 30 tricks about the Destreza Vulgar, la zambullida is more or less passata di sotto, and different things like this. And with the pass of the time, the schools will disappear. This kind of schools disappear.
Okay, so after then, just coming back to, we'll call it noble Destreza. You've got Pacheco. What happens after Pacheco?
Well, during a lot of time, there are two different ways in verdadera Destreza: Carrancistas and Pachequistas, the guys who stay with the ideas of Carranza, and the guys who stay with ideas of Pacheco. Carranza, this kind of guys, is more in the south of Spain, more in Sevilla, and this kind of things, Méndez de Carmona and Cristóbal de Cala, and a Portuguese guy too, the most important Portuguese in the first part of the 17th century, Diogo Gómez de Figueiredo, who wrote an Oplosofia. Oplosofia is a Greek word, but it's an invented word. It's mixed. Oplo, come from oplum, it's weapon in Greek. Obviously, it's the shield, but it's generally it's a weapon. And Sophia, obviously, is the knowledge of the weapons. And this guy is another guy who talking. He's a student of Carranza. Not direct, no direct, but he stayed with his ideas. And in the other part, in the other part of Spain, stay more with Pacheco. But Pacheco is the official way. In the end, Pacheco's win all the studies.
So what's the difference between Pacheco and Carranza? Because Pacheco, I believe, praises Carranza, says he's very good, and then Pacheco gets quite nasty about Carranza, like he does about many others. What is there a particular reason why there's a split? Is there a difference between the two?
To be honest, we have no idea exactly.
Okay, so we've got these two different camps. You've got the Carranza and you've got Pacheco, and you say that in the end, Pacheco, his methodology, becomes the main one. What happens after Pacheco?
Happens that Destreza have a very good world and stay in the highest conception of the crown of the kingdom. We have a lot of masters writing a lot of different books about Destreza and the concept of studying deeply, very deeply this. Díaz de Viezma is a master. Another master is Pérez de Mendoza, Faustino Cabero, but the most important is another guy who the name is Francisco Antonio de Ettenhart. The name of Ettenhart comes from the German because his father was a captain of the German guard of the king, and he stayed in the German guard too, and is a very, very important author of Destreza. And for me, in the end of the 17th century and the first part of the 18th century, the most important author and the most big treatise about Destreza is the treatise of Francisco Lorenz de Rada, La Nobleza de la Espada, is the sword, and this is very, very important treatise. For me, it's the highest of Destreza because it's the top. But in this time is the war in Spain, because Carlos II Charles II, died without sons. Then there are a big war for who will the new king, and the winners are the French, and comes the Bourbon, los Borbones, the Bourbon comes to Spain. Then comes a new styles of fashion, new styles of all in the life, and comes the new style of fencing, the French fencing, with a new weapon, as the small sword, petit court.
Okay, so just to backtrack a bit, are we seeing through Ettenhart and through Rada the development of what Pacheco has written? Is it just extending his work, or is it something new? What's happening there?
Yeah, Ettenhart walking a lot in the way of Pacheco, but not Rada. Rada is a little different. Pacheco wants to divide the things in clear from the little to the big. For example, we can do a thrust of a cat or a cat. They divided it in estocada or tajo or revés. It's it's a cat from the right, tajo is a cat from the left to the right, and revés is a cat from the right to the left.
Yeah.
And medio tajo and medio revés. Tajo is a circular and revés is circular, and medio tajo and medio revés is semicircular. This is the basis of the basis of the construction of the use the sword. The second is Rob, surely, las tetas generales. The way to engage the blades to.
Oh yes, indeed, yes. We did this with Aitor Blanco at 2 Days of the Blade. Yeah.
Yes, of course. Then the way to engage the blade to do an thrust or a cut, and in the end, the most highest is the concept of Destreza, ángulo recto. If you remember, the usual position in Destreza in this time is straight, to be the stand is straight, and with the right arm extended, the right of the left is you if you are a left-hander, of course, straight, and using in this way, you stay using the sword in this way. Then the right angle is the high level, the right angle, and of course the atajo, the engage of the other guy's blade, and the conclusion. And the conclusion, this is very interesting. If you remember, probably you know this, Hans, but Rob, surely, it's disarm, take the other guy sword. This is the highest, but why is the highest? And come back to the philosophy way in Carranza. Is the highest, is the top, because we can do a cut or a thrust, but we don't need it, because if the other guy go out, says, okay, man, you win. Because kill somebody is a bad thing. It's a bad thing, it's not a correct way. Well, but this is the construction of Pacheco, and it's the construction of Ettenhart too. But in Rada, not is the same. Rada talking on his book, talking about the different techniques, and techniques, and techniques, and techniques, and it's all the techniques have the same importance. It's the same simple fast, like more or less like one general trick, general treta general. It's a little bit different. But the Destreza start to change with Rada. Only start to change.
Yes. So that's an interesting thing. So you've got Ettenhart and you've got other authors who are developing from Pacheco, and and just to clarify, we're talking about moving on a circle, attacking from the right angle, and there's various envelopments, in control using the atajo and these things. And then you get Rada, and you're saying that something starts to change with Rada. He's doing something a little different. And it's at the time as well where so you're getting to the point that Destreza is at its peak, you think, or it's gotten further than it's ever been before. It's becoming very, very good. And then there's a war, and everyone changes fencing styles. Is that what you're saying? Because the Bourbons come in and they have a different way of fencing. Is that kind of what happens?
Yes, I think with Rada changed because start to use, for example, they use the launch, not a very long launch, like the Italian people, more the Italian people, but introduce probably in the another authors do the same, probably in the past. But Rada talking about this, and they use, for example, for fight against the Italians, using the a new stance, because obviously is the Italian style because it's lower. The name is Spanish Beauty, you know, of course. Yes, they call it Spanish Beauty. And using a different ways to fight, not like Ettenhard. And this kind of ways is the for me is the first authors who talking about this probably. In the next years, in the medium of the 18th century, another author, Rodrigo del Canto, mixed the Italian ways, mixed the French ways, and mixed the Spanish way, mixed all of this, and use it's a new way to fence, but the name is Verdadera Destreza too.
But in your view, is Rada the end of Destreza, as far as is the end of Noble Destreza, in the written form at least? Is everything after a mixture or a decline?
No, exactly, because I think all the martial arts changes with the time, with new ideas come from other parts, and I think the 18th century includes maybe the 19th century is Destreza too, but it's mixed with other martial arts. For example, the concepts are always the same, because the conceptual, the engagement, the control, the transversal lines, you know, the transversal lines for put your space over the other space is the same. But if you have, for example, very light small sword, you don't need move around. You do this only with your hand, with your fingers. Yes, and for me, it's a little bit useless if you have a small sword moving around the circle. Moving, obviously, is not a circle, a fixed circle. You move around, and the cycle moves too. But with a small sword, I think it's more logical. Use the straight line, the strange lines, and the weapons change it. Obviously, the system must change it too.
So we've got these noble Destreza treatises. They continue on with Rada, and then they're changing. What's happening with the Vulgar? Do we know?
Well, we don't know exactly, because we have this book of Domingo Luis Godinho, but we have a book of the end of the 17th century, the first part of the 18th century, who described again the tricks of the Vulgar system in the first part of the 18th century. Probably survive in different parts of Spain, probably, but we don't sure about this.
Today, when we look at Spanish fencing, people outside of Spain tend to see Destreza as almost unique. We see it as something that's completely different from any other of the single sword techniques that go out there, be they Italian, be they French, even the Dutch and the German stuff. You know, it's all Spanish is very unique, and I wonder whether you feel that's actually true. Do we think that? See, one thing I think is that we have looked at, say, Italian rapier with modern glances, and we tend to apply Olympic fencing back on Italian rapier. Would you say that maybe some of these non-Spanish fencing is more like Destreza? Are there actually closer similarities?
Well, I don't know, because it's not my point of study, but I think that the question is what kind of Italian fencing, Italian rapier, because I think we have different styles in Italy and obviously in the rest of Europe. It's not the same, obviously, the Bolognese system, of course. It's not the same like the masters of the end part of the 16th century and the first part of the 17th century, because the weapons are very, very different. You need to use different kind of movements for using a rapier with 1 meter on 40 centimeters, and maybe the weight is 1.5 kilos, because there exists, I think, like a ferro, this kind of movements. Or, for example, the Italian system of the medium on the end of the 17th century with cap hilts, the system of Martelli families from Francesco Lodai, you know, is different. Then probably the system are similar, but not, for example, for me. It's not my point of study, and I don't sure, but it's very different, very, very. It's not close. The Capo Ferro system or Fabris or this kind of masters is very, very long about the Destreza system, but not exactly the same from the Martelli systems, or maybe in the first part, the Bolognese system.
Sure, I think it's interesting because when a lot of people talk about rapier in the Italian form, certainly, we tend to think of all the same weapon the whole way through, from about 1550 to the beginning of the 18th century, and they tend to lump everything in together. You mentioned Fabris, of course. He talks about using shorter swords as well as longer swords, and he attacks on an ellipse. A lot of times he doesn't go straight, and a lot of his stuff is not linear. One of the things that interests me about it is as he's developing his form, his sponsors are Protestants, worried about these damn Spaniards coming up and fighting the whole time. And a lot of Fabris's technique involves removing the sword, so the person cannot find it, cannot do an atajo. But he does these sort of virtual atajos.
Yeah.
So it interests me that maybe we need to take away this idea that Italian fencing is purely linear and Spanish fencing is purely in a circle, but also we need to look at who's influencing who. Because I know Francesco Loda often talks about, say, Marcelli as the answer to the Spanish swordsman. It's the answer to Destreza, and I do wonder if people like Fabris are working like that as well in answer to some of these external influences.
Yes, I talking all the time. I talking about the general thing, a general concept, not obviously, not deeply, but yes, I think Fabris, of course, have I don't remember the name, but my friend Eugenio García Salmón is talking about the paso militar, military pass, no? And he talking about Fabris, talk about the straight and moving in this way. Now, I talking more the general concept of the low stand and very low blades and this kind of master of this part of the time.
You've been researching Destreza for many years, and AGEA, you're involved with, have published many manuals. We're going to put a link on as well to all of these fantastic manuals that you've published. Is there one thing you would really say is meaningful for Destreza for you? Is there one thing that you really love about Destreza?
Oh, this is very difficult. Obviously not the masters, because I think Pacheco Narvaez was a very ugly guy. No, Carranza was a very good guy. Yes, yes. You know, all the past fencing masters talking about talking bad about the rest of the people. No, I think it's, I don't know. I practice sport fencing during years. Um, I never like, for example, the very long lounge, and I never like this kind of things. And no engagement, for example, I always using the engagement. And when I start to try the Destreza, actually, I prefer the Italian system in the first part because it's closer than the sport fencing, obviously, because the long launch and the low stance. But it was very difficult to traduce for me to translate the Italian, the Renaissance Italian for me, and I started to read the Spanish treatise. More or less same difficult to translate to the modern language because it's horrible sometimes. But in the end, the sense of the take the blade, the move, the try to move with harmonic movements. You know, you need take the same in the same movement, the foot and the hands, obviously in all the fencing, but in the Destreza, on this concept of the Destreza, I think it's very important to harmony with your body, with the movement, move the hips for help your arm to move the sword, not too heavy for the arm. All of this, and obviously some things of the Destreza, some things like the better is to do a conclusion and don't kill another guy because the weapons are very bad things, guys. Kill the people.
I've got one thing to add on to that. Whenever you fight, you're usually smiling a lot.
Yeah.
But your best fights have been with people that I've seen, have been with people like Danny. And it reminds me of a quote that Chris Chatfield said to me, that fencing is a conversation between two people. And I wonder, is that something very much that comes out of Destreza, that as opposed to, say, you know, a lot of fencing, which is like boom, 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 and who gets the main hit, Destreza seems to be very much about two people having a dance, having a conversation with the swords.
Yes, of course, because if the concept is using one hit, you know, you stay tense, and jump. Obviously, pump. This is the way. But I think for do the Destreza in a better way, you can't stay tense. It's not a good way because your movements, it's not fluid, you know. You stay. Then you need. Do you remember Bruce Lee with "Be water, my friend"? It's more or less the same. Yeah, and then you and me using the same system in this way is fluid, and it's like a conversation, but a conversation into layers.
I get a feeling though that in the Destreza, I get a feeling though that in this Destreza way, it's, if you compare it to the Bruce Lee thing with water, it should be wine actually for you guys.
Yes.
But anyway, Ton, this was really, really good, really informative. I want to add something. You have an event, fencing event, coming up. So can you just talk a little bit about that? When it will be, where it will be, and and everything else you want to add. You know.
Yeah, the meeting is the 9th. And it's a little meeting, and we want to be the meeting be a familiar and nice meeting. It's in the first weekend of August, and I have a key. It's in what is the first August? Is the 5, 6, and 7 on August. The name is Torre de Hércules. It's Hercules Tower because we live here in Coruña. Coruña is a little town in the northwest of Spain, and we have a very big lighthouse, Roman lighthouse, and the name is Torre de Hércules. Hercules Tower, and this is the name of the meeting. This year comes to teach Roberto Gotti and Francesco Lodà, and Rob Brunacres come here too. We do something here talking about the English pirates and the Bolognese women.
Oh God! Here we go again. Last year I taught at this event, and I spent 3 days about they've got this big statue in the square of a woman, a Galician woman, who was famed for leading the defence of La Coruña against I think Drake or one of the English pirates or something like that. And Tom would take us to go walking to go find a drink somewhere, and we'd always go past this bloody statue, and he'd go, "Oh, we're here. This is the statue about the English pirates, Rob." So I'm expecting this year will be the same.
Yeah, more or less. We can fight, we can fence, and we can drink, and it's, I hope, very well.
Cool, wonderful. Thank you very much, Tom.
Yeah, Tom, thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure to speak with you, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you, guys.
Cool.
Right.
It's fantastic talking about the diabolic things, but thanks. But thank you, guys.
Thank you.